Welcome back. Well, it seems like everyone wants to grow their own veggies this year. So Frank is back now to show us how we can grow them in containers, which is great for people who don't have a lot of space. So Frankie, where do we start? What do we need to start with?
What you need to start with first off is you want to make sure you have a nice large container with some good soil capacity. That container itself needs to have drainage. And now Trace, the options that you can have when it comes to growing foods in containers contain everything from, you got your lettuce green under here. You also have things like kale, love kale of course, tomatoes of course, strawberries, they can be grown even in a hanging basket, boom, like that. You even have the hottest pepper in the world, one of the hottest peppers in the world. That is a ghost pepper, but even the Carolina Reapers can be grown. You have eggplants, and oh, I want to show you this right here. Oh, I'm just gonna grab it for you. Look at that. You could also grow your own beans, boom.
You're one of the healthiest guys I know because you're always eating right off of your sets. But go ahead, tell us about the containers.
So let's talk a little bit about making something look pretty and at the same time be functional and fashionable. So we have a purple flowering basil. So this is an edible basil, beautiful container. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make it more of an edible flowers with confetti. So this is Dianthus. Dianthus is a fantastic edible bloom. You can see that. It's also cool hardy and it's easy to grow and it'll grow in full sun. So we're just going to pop in that little bit of Dianthus on either side. So this is going to be what makes you look really good with your friends, because as soon as you put flowers into things like salads and things like that, they're going to think that you're also foo-foo. Another great edible flower, but also one that's going to repel insects, are marigolds. Marigolds are fantastic that you can pull those blooms apart and you can use those easily in a salad or to decorate even just a plate overall. So we're going to put two of those on either side. So we have the purple flowering basil, we have two of the Dianthus that are planted in there. Then what we're going to do to finally cap this guy off, I'm just going to put this on this side, is we're going to use some nasturtiums. So nasturtiums, what I like about them is they're a trailing plant, and because they're a trailing plant, they'll give us that little bit of some spill, beautiful spill. You just see a butterfly flying around here at the same time. And at the same time, what's good about nasturtiums is they have an edible flower that has a peppery taste. So we're going to pop those guys right in like that. So like one on either side, and these guys are just going to trail beautifully over. And then you got the thrill in the middle, which is your purple flowering basil. You got some of the fill, which is your marigolds, and as well as your Dianthus. And then you have the spill, which is your nasturtium. So there you have a beautiful edible container that we can use the blooms and also the herbs. Now another thing that we can use is making it look beautiful too by using a fragrant flower, which is heliotrope. And what's really good with the heliotrope, and I would plant with this, is I would plant the kale. Word of warning with the heliotrope, even though you can see it's attracting bees right at this time, which is beautiful, pollinators are so key, especially if you have tomatoes on your property. This is not an edible plant, but it's going to give you a nice smell, but at the same time what it's going to do is it's going to give you a beautiful looking planter where we can harvest the kale off there ever so easy. So those are two different beautiful containers that you can do that are edible, that look good at the same time. So in a small space what they do is they look nice and attractive, but at the same time you can use them.
Not only are they beautiful, but they're going to work because they are big enough and they have drainage. And that's something you always remind us of, Frankie. You need the big size and you need drainage for your containers. You also need the right soil. Am I right?
The right soil, so you want to make sure you're using a good quality potting soil like a moisture control. And the key for success when it comes to edible plants is sun. Sun is key. That also means access to water. So make sure that you're able to water. And then a reminder too, always a little bit of fertilizer is a good idea, because being in a potting soil, there's no nutrient that's there. So by putting fertilizer, you're going to feed. But you can have beauty and you can have food all in a small space, and dirty hands too.
I love the dirty hands. It means you work the land hard. Before we go, Frankie, tell me a little bit about the schedule when it comes to fertilizing and watering. How often do you need to do that?
So on a sunny day, when it comes to watering, you should be watering right after you plant as well. So on a sunny day, we're going to have to water every day. But on a day where there's forecasted rain and it's cloudy, we can usually skip those days overall. With fertilizing, it depends on the type of fertilizer you use. If you use a water-soluble fertilizer like this that we would mix in with this container, we'd be using that every other week. If you're a little bit more on the lazier side, something like this, a shake and feed, a slow release, you put one application down and it feeds throughout the summer. So this one here, if you really want to get good results, you can even top up with the other. But I usually like using a shake and feed because it's kind of like feed and you forget and then you're done. But watering is key. You know, if you don't have the time to water, I would say to you, plastic plants are a good idea, but watering is a good idea because plants are like kids. They do need a little bit of care.
He's got to keep it real. If you're not going to water, they're not going to